We're live, everyone. How's it going on this glorious Thursday? Yeah, it's definitely Thursday. PMQs was yesterday. That is how I keep track of the week, apparently. Don't even know what to say at this point. What a week. What a week we have had. Probably one of the wildest weeks since probably Theresa May. Probably. I don't know what to kind of say about it. It was something, that's for sure. Everyone else kind of looking at us laughing. Most other countries would be looking at us like, what a mess. What an absolute mess. Man. What an absolute mess, huh? No, I was thinking by the time I put a video out, everyone else is going to have theirs done, so... What do you know about the king? Well, the king... I know about the king of games. I know he died a long time ago. So, that's as much as I can tell you about the king. It's the only one I care about anyways. Yami of Egypt. The great king Atemfam, the only one I care about. The rest are pretenders. But what a week! What a week we have had. What a week! Like, Truss is gone. There's gonna be another unelected Tory Prime Minister. Another one. They're going to be chosen by the end of next week. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how it's going to work because the Tory leadership contests are meant to be whittled down by MPs, and then the current king could, in theory, deny the next Tory Prime Minister. Yeah, I mean, the king can dissolve Parliament, but that's got to be a request from the Prime Minister. The royal family don't get involved in politics. There's a reason for that. That's how you don't get beheaded. So yeah, it's ceremonial. That's all it is. But yeah, the what's meant to happen is the Tory MPs are meant to decide on candidates. They get voted down bit by bit. Yeah. They get voted down bit by bit, and then you end up with two, and those two people go to the membership. That's why you had Liz Truss versus Dishi Rishi. And what's going to happen now is they might end up speedrunning it, but I don't know how it's going to work if they're saying they can have a new leader in place by next week. It's very confusing. I was just happy Braverman was gone. I was genuinely happy that Braverman was just, she was gone. That would have been a good enough week. But then, Truss is gone as well. If we cut to the community section of the channel, what's this? Oh, okay, no, I don't need to worry about that. Current mood, one regular day in England. That's all I asked for. Will never happen. That's what all I'm asking for. I was asking for one normal day in England. One normal day in England. Boris is still under investigation from the Privileges Committee, so that should be quite interesting. We'll talk about that in a bit. It's taken a long time to get that underway, though. I'm just going to put a language warning in now, so you've been warned, everyone. But one normal day in England will never happen. That's all I'm saying right now. Will never happen. You guys wanted the fracking vote instead of the Braverman one, so I put the fracking one out. So that's that. I asked the question: can the Tories have one normal day? As in not have groundbreaking news that I have to instantly cover. That's what a normal day is. 2% of people said yes. What is wrong with the 2% of people? No at 89, and want to see the numbers at 8%. So decent split there, really, between yes and just want to see the numbers. 6K special will have to wait, I think, for a while. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we'll go through the topics probably in a few minutes. We'll go through the topics in a few minutes, but yeah, it's just what a bizarre week. I had some stuff on Mark Carney, the king. I had some stuff on this guy Tobias Elwood, again saying the UK should rejoin the single market. I'll whittle through these, but I just don't think they're that important anymore considering what's happened here. So we'll watch this in a few minutes. 6 weeks, and that includes the Queen's funeral. That was all media talking about shortest time as Prime Minister ever. Yeah, I mean, if you think like 6 weeks, 6 weeks minus 10 days of mourning, really. So that puts you at what, 4.5 weeks? 4.5 weeks. To be honest, that's dreadful. That is absolutely dreadful. Like, I'm trying to get a collaboration with Allshorts to talk about this. I did message him about it, see if he still wants to do one, but I don't know. Don't even know what we'll talk about at this point because everything's just moving so quickly. Maybe even the Indian subcontinent, I don't know. But that was an absolute war crime, a travesty, especially given how much they paid for it as well. Madness. Who are the frontrunners? Sunak, Morden, and Johnson. Johnson's the main frontrunner. If the Tories are smart, they'll pick Sunak. If they're stupid, they'll pick Johnson. That's the way I'm seeing it right now. Mordaunt's also a good pick. I think Mordaunt will do decent. She looks the part. She actually speaks well, and she seems like she has half a brain. As for the rest of them, I don't know who else would put their hat in because Johnson, he'll blow up the party. He genuinely will blow up the party. We'll talk for about hopefully half an hour. I don't know. These live streams don't go on as long as I want them to. I just run out of stuff to say. I don't know how people stream for like an hour or two. It's madness to me. I guess the audience keep it going, so that's what I'll need from the audience to keep it going. Should we go to first topic? I'm not sure. Excuse me, drinking tea. Ooh. She's been, is it 45 days or something? Like, I just don't get it. Yeah, she probably is, but at least she can string a sentence together and doesn't blink like an owl. At least she has... Like I said, people, the bar is not set very high. Okay, the bar is not set very high for Conservatives, right? This is the party who chose David Cameron, who chose Theresa May, who chose Boris Johnson, who chose Liz Truss, right? This is the party that picked those people, okay? So it doesn't take a lot. Let's be honest now. It doesn't take a lot to it doesn't take a lot to become leader of the Tory party. They've elected a bunch of morons, right? This is the reality of the situation. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as you can string a sentence together, you're fairly right wing. You hate black and brown people. You can put some decent spin on stuff. You'll be alright in the Tory party. Some PM Canning, I think, in the 1820s lasted 140 days. So Liz Truss is the numero uno shorting. Yeah, she is, yeah. Kwasi Kwarteng should really be the shortest running chancellor, given that the other one died in office. I don't think that's very fair to include that person in the rankings, given that they weren't forced out. Their life ended. Alright, what we'll do is we'll watch this clip of Liz Truss talking. Hopefully the volume's good. I appreciate the BBC added playback speed. Genuine goat move. Twitter has it for mobile. They need to get it for desktop, but goated. This is goated right here.
At a time of great economic...
Let me know if there's any audio issues to any of the clips I play.
...and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills.
They still are, by the way. Especially because the the Tory price. I don't want to call it a cap, but the Tory price. It's not a freeze either. The Tory pricing thing ends in April, so there's not too much certainty.
Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth.
Yeah, and you guys were in charge for how long now? 12 years?
I was elected by the Conservative Party
Not by the
with a
public.
mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit.
And what happened to that? The traders were like, nah, bro, we don't believe in that. The investors fled. Pension funds almost collapsed. If the Bank of England did not step in when it did, we would be seeing a much, much worse situation than we're seeing right now. So shouts out to Andrew Bailey, probably the only bit of credit I'll ever give him in my life.
Recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party.
Again, she keeps talking about the mandate given to her by the Conservative Party, which I think her main issue was she overcalculated how her position. That's what happened. How do you... I genuinely, right, when you have an 80-seat majority, how do you mess up? It doesn't make any sense. 80-seat majority, you can pass pretty much whatever you want. How do you miss? Lower national insurance equals less health and welfare services. Yeah, I just don't get it. How do you miss? That's like being put on the goal line and missing the goal. I genuinely don't get it.
I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him
Charles.
that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady.
Sir Graham, the Prime Minister Slayer Brady.
We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain...
What fiscal plans? Because you shredded them. You shredded the so-called economic orthodoxy. What? I don't get it.
Our country's economic stability and national security.
Yeah, it's their party that have damaged both our national security and our economic stability. Madness. You got exclusive from Steve Swinford saying he's told that Johnson is expected to stand in the Tory leadership contest. He's taking soundings, but it is said to believe is a matter of national interest. Like one of the guys who allowed the Russian money to infect the Tory party, is now saying that it's in the national interest for him to come back. Like, oh mate, just stop it. He's on holiday in the Caribbean as well. He's not even here to vote, and just wow. You got this from Ione Wells, I think. I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's pretty good though. She's the one that found out a lot about the Pincher stuff. So yeah, give her a lot of respect, even though I don't know her name, how to pronounce it. Saying she was told by senior Conservatives that there are MPs talking about triggering by-elections if Johnson is serious about standing to be leader again. She says, I've heard from MPs tempted to and gathering evidence of defections and resignations in the event of his return. So I've been watching Byline, then Novara streams, but I have to see Match Live. Fair play. I'm not going to say I'm better than the other two. Definitely not. Maybe Novara. I reckon I can beat Novara. I can beat Novara. Definitely not Byline Times though. They do really good work. They're genuinely there's only 2 newspapers in the UK I donate to, and they're one of them. Let me put it that way. They're very good. But you've got a bunch of Tory MPs saying they don't want Johnson. They will happily trigger by-elections, and if they do this simultaneously, it could be a bloodbath for the Tory party, because you'll have to compete against the other party, so the third party, be it Labour or Conservative, the new Tory independent candidate, whoever that is, the person who defected, and then the Conservatives also have to put up a candidate. If they do this at the same time, it will do a lot of damage to the Tory party. Like, genuinely, you're talking resignations that will trigger by-elections, defections that won't trigger by-elections unless the constituents kind of do a recall petition or something like that. But that rarely happens. I think she watched Boris Johnson shove things no one wanted through and just overconfidently thought she could do as well. The markets do not want her, however, and she didn't accept it. I mean, this what she did, right, with the markets and stuff, right? There was a lot of damage done. People's mortgage rates went up, etc. Right? What she did yesterday was genuinely just bizarre. Like, there's a manifesto pledge that they won't. I think it's something like they won't do any new fracking in the country, right? 2019 manifesto pledge. Then she repealed it during the leadership contest, which doesn't make any sense because she should have got a fresh mandate from the public at that point. She should have went to an election. So it didn't make sense, her argument there. And then she tried to force Tory MPs to vote against Labour's motion to try and push a bill to ban fracking, just to debate the banning of fracking in the UK. Like, wow, like I don't get it. I'm just so confused, you know. You got the Lewis Goodall saying Health Minister generic tells news agents, which is like it's like the LBC 3, Goodall, Sopel, can't remember his first name, and Emily Malice. It's like that's their like podcasting. Him saying the Conservative Party faces extinction if we get this wrong. The country will face a very serious period of further instability, and the Conservative Party will potentially cease to exist. This is one of the oldest political parties in the world. One of the oldest political parties in the world, and it's looking like it could go extinct. My big fear is that whatever replaces them could be endlessly worse. That sequence last night is as illogical as the rest of their actions. No, yesterday night was far more illogical than anything I've ever seen. When I go through last night, you'll understand this was bizarre. This genuinely made no sense when I go through it. And this is the video I wanted to bring up from ITV, which try and follow along because this is like the worst movie script you'll ever hear.
It has been a night of astonishing scenes at Westminster, with reports of jostling, manhandling, bullying and shouting outside the parliamentary lobbies in a supposed vote of confidence in the government. The Deputy Chief Whip was reported to have left the scene saying, "I'm absolutely effing furious. I just don't effing care anymore," before he resigned, along with the Chief Whip. But we've just been told they have now officially unresigned. The Home Secretary has, however, definitely gone. In short, it is total, absolute, abject chaos.
Like, when has that ever happened? Where you got, people don't even know if their Chief Whip resigned, the Deputy Chief Whip resigned. There's apparently manhandling going on. I'm not going to mention who was potentially involved because I don't want to get sued. But, if it was the case that these people are involved, that's hilarious. Good evening, number 3. It was genuinely amazing. Do you know what? I'm going to play this again just for anyone who didn't hear it.
It has been a night of astonishing scenes at Westminster, with reports of jostling, manhandling, bullying and shouting outside the parliamentary lobbies in a supposed vote of confidence in the government. The Deputy Chief Whip was reported to have left the scene saying, "I'm absolutely effing furious. I just don't effing care anymore," before he resigned, along with the Chief
Yeah, the latest wins.
Whip. But we've just been told they have now officially unresigned. The Home Secretary has...
Like, how is anyone supposed to keep up with this nonsense? Like I said, one normal day in England, that's all I want, will never happen. Honestly, that's all I want. Like, this is genuine insanity. Like, no one can keep up with this. Not me. Robert Peston saying total confusion about whether the Chief Whip and Deputy have in fact resigned. I've been told by a senior government member they'd gone, but Downing Street source told me I have no idea. Extraordinary. And underlying this is the craziness that no one, including Rees-Mogg, knows whether the fracking vote was a confidence vote or not. Because the government originally said if you this Labour motion is effectively a vote of confidence in the government. So if you vote for the Labour motion, you're effectively voting against the government and you'll have the whip removed. That was the state of play. Then you got Robert Peston saying, turns out the crazy day is not over. I've just had a text that after 1:30 a.m. from Downing Street. So people were awake at night, late, saying this. Tonight's fracking vote was always a vote of confidence. That Downing Street made a mistake in telling the minister at the dispatch box it wasn't. So at the dispatch box, they said the wrong thing, which inadvertently means they had misled the House, which means they have to, essentially, they have to come back over this. So someone should go to the House of Commons and ask, was Liz Truss, was it Liz Truss? Actually, it's not a fracking vote, it's always a confidence vote. That Downing Street made a mistake. So someone has to go to the dispatch box and effectively say, it was a confidence vote in the government and they inadvertently misled the House, because this yesterday morning it was we were told that if you vote against this if you vote for the Labour motion, you're effectively voting against the government, which means that you will have the whip removed from you, right? Then we were told that wasn't the case, and now we're told it actually was the case. It was psych. Like, what is this, honestly? You got this MP, Charles Walker, absolutely furious. I know Max covered this as well, but this is genuine just anger. And this is something, actually, do you know what? We'll talk about this in a sec. Because this one's important. That's something I want to talk about in a moment. You've got this from Camilla Turner saying, veteran Conservative MP Christopher Chope said he's ashamed of his revolting colleagues and called for a general election because the party is ungovernable. And that's important. So we'll come back to this as well momentarily. But we'll go through this video from Charles Walker even. Whoops. What happens next? The public order bill. Yeah, they'll get that through. They'll stop protest. They'll reduce the amount of people can actually protest. But I told you, man, this is not... Yesterday was not a normal day. Yesterday was not a normal day. I don't think that will ever happen again, where you've got people who don't know absolutely no clue what's going on. Reports of manhandling over a Labour motion just to say, we want a bill to ban fracking. That's all it was, to debate the banning of fracking in the UK. And the Tories fell over themselves saying they didn't want it because at the end of the day, fracking normally happens in rural areas, and rural areas normally vote Tory. And so that's why they've kind of struggled so much against it. I mean, this is... We are through, in the words of Milhouse, we are through the looking glass, people. We are through the looking glass. This is absolute insanity right now. Well, I'm waiting for a battle royale situation here. I'm waiting for a proper punch up. I'm not saying I want weapons, but we're talking battle royale, no weapons, just hands, people throwing hands. That's all I want to see. I don't know who would want to see throwing hands. Johnny Mercer guy, who would he verse? I'm trying to think. I reckon Therese Coffey will have him in a fight, to be fair. She looks like she looks pretty terrifying, I'll be honest. I won't speak anymore in case I get cancelled on that one. But yeah, honestly, it's just, people are saying we're ending up like Italy and all of this stuff, right? I mean, it's just, like whatever Italy does or does not do, right? Like whatever the stereotypes around Italians are, like, whatever, I don't care. They have some of the best food around, hands down. Not as good as Bengali food though. But point being is, like, stuff is not meant to happen in the UK. That's the point. People say this is Great Britain. The Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's not meant to happen here, and the country's completely breaking down. There was on the fracking stuff, just quickly, there was a guy in America where they do fracking near his farm, right, and all the water's polluted, and he went to some fracking executives, and they had told him apparently they would drink the water from around the area. They said it was safe and stuff, I think, and so he got some glasses of water from his farm, which were polluted by the fracking, and he told him to drink the water, and this water was, like, disgusting. And so, for anyone who thinks fracking doesn't have an impact environmentally, is a moron. But this from Charles Walker. I mean, this from last night where tempers are high. He's got the curtains haircut. I've never seen a real person with this haircut. In 1980, I predicted in public that there would be a major political disaster of some kind within decades. Structural failing. It just took a bit longer. I mean, think about it like this, right? In America, we saw it in was it 2020? You've got a load of people running up on the Capitol building, right? That happened in America. No country is safe from this. No country is safe from having their institutions, brutalized. Written constitution, unwritten constitution, no one is safe from this. A written constitution protects you a bit more, but if you're a country like America where your judiciary is completely messed up, it's not going to save you a written constitution. like no one is a million miles away from this, because from the failures of capitalism you get things like populism, and populism can be incredibly dangerous, especially right-wing populism, because they'll tell you, it's not your fault that you don't have a job, it's the fault of the minorities, it's the fault of the feminists, it's the fault of the trans people, the minorities effectively in society. That's what they'll always keep telling you. It's never your fault, it's someone else's fault. And then they'll, inevitably they'll win and they'll flip the system on its head. Yeah, it's sinkholes, man. Movie lover fan. Have you seen the sinkholes in America? Like, people's houses are swallowed up. It's like something out of Gears of War. It's wild. We'll watch this video quickly from Walker.
This whole affair is inexcusable. It is a pitiful reflection on the Conservative Parliamentary Party at every level. And it reflects really badly, obviously, on the government of the day.
Do you think there's any coming back from this?
I don't think so. But I haven't. I have to say I've been of that view really since two weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, I mean, I can't remember when the budget was. I would have thought when the budget was announced, that's when everyone should be scared.
This is an absolute disgrace. As a Tory MP of 17 years, who's never been a minister, who's got on with it loyally most of the time, I think it's a shambles and a disgrace.
Oh my days! I thought he was talking about someone else when he talked about the 17 years. He would have been there. So he would have been there since potentially before David Cameron. No. Yes, maybe around David Cameron. Hello, Ben Shaw.
I think it is utterly appalling.
So you seem quietly...
I'm livid. And, I really shouldn't say this, but I hope all those people that put Liz Truss in number 10, I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth it for the ministerial red box. I hope it was worth it to sit round the cabinet table, because the damage they have done to our party is extraordinary.
I'm sorry, it's very difficult to convey. You look just furious about this.
Oh, look at this man.
Furious about this.
I am.
He looks like he's ready to explode. Well, his voting record's probably shocking, mate. I'll be honest, but he knows the game's up for the party. He's out at the end of this election cycle. He's been here for 12 years. That's a while. He's gonna have a fat pension saved up. No doubt he's got a lot of money. Potentially, maybe he'll get some consultancy gigs later on. But point being is that they know the game is over now. It's done. They're finished. As a party, this is their extinction now. They'll struggle to come back from this, because the one thing that the Tories always had on Labour was they're better on the economy. That's the way people always saw it. Labour are better with Conservatives are better when it comes to fiscal stuff. Is he in the 922 committee? I don't know. It's always the people's belief that the Conservatives are better than the economy. It's a load of nonsense, absolute nonsense, but that's how people saw it. There's no way they'll see it after this. There's genuinely no way. When you look at what's happening with interest rates, given the fact that we've had very incredibly low, I think 0.25 or 0.5% interest rate since 2008, the financial crash. So you've got a whole kind of group of people, not a generation, I suppose 24 years. Yeah, I'd say a whole generation of people who've been very used to low interest rates, been hit in the pocket really hard with mortgage rates that are hitting 4 and 5%. When fixed rates were very low. You've got a spiralling cost of living crisis. So you've got mortgages going up, you've got energy bills going up, and you've got rampant profiteering and price gouging going on. And the simple fact is, even the companies that are involved in this stuff, right? The alleged price gouging, Tesco's, for example, supermarkets are making tons of profit because they can just jack up prices because they have not a monopoly, but there's not a lot of competition. I think it's the chairman of Tesco's told, I think it's the BBC, that Labour have an economic plan, the Tories don't. You have Shell, I think it's the CEO of Shell, come out and say, yeah, you should tax us more. Shell, imagine a company, imagine a world where a person's job is to generate profit, right, for their company. That's their main responsibility to CEO, the shareholders, right? Is profit. Them saying, you should tax us more. And then the government saying, nah, bruh. Imagine that world. Yeah, that's the world the UK is in. Madness.
I've had enough. I've had enough of talentless people putting their tick in the right box, not because it's in the national interest, but because it's in their own personal interest, to achieve ministerial position. And I know I speak for hundreds of backbenchers who right now...
Hundreds. How many? How many hundreds, you know? Because I can't remember what the... Is it 386 the Tories have? In terms of... It must be around that 386 figure. He's talking hundreds. Maybe he's saying 100, maybe 2 at a push, maybe. That's a lot of people.
Are worrying for their constituents all the time, but now worrying about their...
God, I get lost. They're worrying about their constituents. That's nonsense. That's malarkey. That is. They're not worrying about their constituents. If they are, they wouldn't vote the way they do. Let's be honest now. That's malarkey.
And personal circumstances, because there is nothing as an ex-MP, and a lot of my colleagues are wondering, as many of their constituents are wondering, how they're going to pay their mortgages.
Effectively, especially this new crop of MPs, they haven't been there that long. Yeah, they've made good money over the last few years as MPs, but you know, after that, you know, they'll get a big pension, but they won't have enough to kind of live long term, and they might struggle to get consultancy gigs. I think Charles Walker will probably be able to get one. Long term MPs will be able to get them, but All Shorts is a bit miffed at him stealing the "tick the wrong box" catchphrase. What? Madness. So this here is pretty interesting. This statement made by Christopher Chope saying, it's called the party ungovernable. And so if we have a look at, this is Cameron's majority in 2015. So he's got 331. I can't remember what the majority line was. I'm not prepared enough for this, but I don't know what this is. This looks like some sort of demonic rabbit or something. I don't know. But if we have a look at this picture, right, you can still, there's a lot of blue. Obviously, he's got a majority. There's a lot of red and stuff like that. Now, if we look at Johnson's majority, which I wish I could have got the same graphic. There's a lot more. There's a lot more blue. There's a sea of blue here. I don't know who posted this. Views of world. Kind of wish. Let's see if I can find a better thing. Let me flail around aimlessly and see. This will do. This does not look like the 2019 election. I don't know. I'm lost. I'm lost. I'm going to start just flaying around aimlessly. But point being is, look, if you have a look at this, you can see there's a lot more blue here compared to this map here. See that you got, you know, a lot of red here from these constituencies here and in the centre. If you look here, there's a way less red and way less red over here. Now, guys, majority is around 10k. Super safe Tory seat. We've seen the Tories lose safe seats, though. That's the thing. They lost Chesham and Amersham, whatever it's called, and they lost Patterson seat. They lost Owen Patterson seat. I can't remember what his constituency was called, but you know, when we look at this, right, you can see why one of the reasons why the parties have become ungovernable. It's partly due to this right here in the north of England, because you've got so many factions in the Tory party. You've got the ERG, the bunch of lunatics, basically the UKIP wing of the party, right? Morons, absolute morons, a lot of them. Then you've got the Northern Research Group who care about the, you know, quote, the north of England. They apparently care about that. Nonsense. It's nonsense, but they still have their own aims and objectives they would like to happen. And I'm sure you've got other groups dotted around here or there. But, you know, you've got the kind of Cameron-era Tories. You've got the... and then you've got, you know, wherever the hell Liz Truss is with her... You know, I guess it would be the ERG wing. The you've got the... Struggling for words here. You've got the low tax, low regulation. You know, the lunatics in the party. You've got Kwarteng, Liz Truss. I guess it would be the ERG wing of the party. They would be the ERG. And so what the north of England want is a lot of spending. A lot of money in terms of, you know, levelling up funds and things like that. That's what the north of England want. I've got a video coming out about the north of England. I'm just kind of struggling a bit for words. That's what happens when I work all day and try and do live streams. So I don't do midweek videos, but I've been forced into them by the morons in charge. But point being is that you've got two factions of the... I guess you've got two major different groups here. Or three, we'll say three. You've got the kind of, I guess it's run by Jeremy Hunt now, the kind of, you know, conservative compassionate conservatives who will tell you, "Oh, I can't fund your hospital. Really sorry about that." That group of people. You've got the ERG, low tax, low regulation, Singapore on the Thames type Tories, and then you've got obviously the Northern Tories who don't want a low tax, low regulation system because they need structural funds for the North. That's what they're desperate for. And so, point being is that you've got different kind of groups going on at each other, and that's where I think his statement of Christopher Chope's statement of the party is ungovernable, because I think they've added so many MPs who have so many differing goals. Who I don't think a lot of these UKIP guys will really care about the Conservative Party. They used the Conservative Party as a vehicle to get the hard Brexit they wanted. Let's be honest. They used the Conservative Party to get the low tax, low regulation that they wanted, and that's it. Once it dies, they'll probably join the Reform Party or the Brexit Party or the UKIP Party, or they'll make a new party, neo-Tories or something stupid like that. Don't let the DUP hear you saying that they have Irish accents, lol. Fundamentalist Christians. I mean, this is it. It's if this is it, right? If this ends the Tory party, it'll be madness, because, like I said, they're a party that have been around for hundreds of years, right? It's just, Liz Truss effectively ended a political dynasty in a sense. And that's kind of crazy to me, given how long they have been, kind of in and around the country. They've done so much damage to this country, but I don't know who replaces them. I really don't. But I don't know what more to say about this one, unless you guys got any questions, anything you guys want to ask. I'll probably try and do a 6K special at some point this week, maybe. But yeah, it's been a rough week. It's been a rough week. Constant briefings, constant, just so many stories floating around of what's going on in the Conservative Parliamentary Party. And I just, you've got Johnson, who had endless scandals, scandal after scandal, and he just survived. You've endless scandal after scandal, and they chose Liz Truss because they thought she was the most like Boris Johnson and the most easiest one to control in terms of trying to get the agenda they wanted. But in the end, they've caused their own undoing. The problem is, though, eventually these people who do switch to Labour, these, people who have decided to, floating voters who decide to vote Labour this time outright, who are they going to vote for next time if they don't want to vote Labour again? Who's going to get their vote? Because if the Tory party is decimated by the switch, they will take a massive hit for this. They could be out for a generation. And will big donors want to go back to the party? Probably. But that will take time, especially because a lot of them are moving over to Labour, which I'm not the biggest fan of, I'll be honest. The Lib Dems, yeah, I suppose so, but the Lib Dems are still quite small. They're still quite a small party. I suppose if Labour if Labour get PR passed, then that could help. You could have lots of small right wing parties, which would be different. Definitely would be different, because UKIP did okay before Brexit. UKIP did quite well in the election polls. They never got an MP because of first past the post. Nigel Farage kept losing to like the Dolphin guy, and did he lose to the Bin? I don't remember, but yeah, he kept losing to different I'm not going to call them furries, but you know what I mean. Lord Binface, was it Lord Binface beat him as well? So I don't know what happens from here. I think they're in big trouble though, big trouble. I don't know who comes in next for him, and it's quite nervy. It's quite nervy to think who's going to be next. Who will be the next Prime Minister of the country? Like, my money's on Sunak. If I was going to bet, I'd put my money on Dishy Rishi. But it could be Penny Mordaunt. Penny Mordaunt, who I think in midweek against Starmer did okay. Apart from when she said the Prime Minister is not hiding under a desk. I mean, that was funny, but I feel like she did want to undermine Truss a bit. I feel like she did. she wants to make a point. I mean, the Prime Minister hiding is just embarrassing. But given the state of the UK now, with the Bank of England constantly threatening to put up interest rates, yeah, I think under PR the main parties will split. But if the Tory party gets absolutely decimated, you're talking about a party that's built up a lot of infrastructure and has a lot of connections with different journalists and different papers. What happens then? Any history on Morden? Not a ton, I'll be honest. I haven't looked into her properly. Maybe I'll do that at some point. I always want to do like prime ministerial profiles on the different candidates and like look at their voting records and stuff and do some proper analysis on them, but I just never had the time to do it, especially now. Tories would be back in an election or two. Irish electorate has forgotten the Fianna Fáil trashed. Yeah, but I don't know, because with the UK, right, you had Thatcher and Major, who were in charge, I think from the 80s to 97. Then you had Labour in charge from 97 to 2010. That's 13 years. You got the Tories have been in charge now for 12 years. And if Labour could string together over a decade, plus get PR passed, that could be good for them. I think Ireland is slightly different in terms of who they vote for and why. I'd have to speak to more people about Fianna Fáil and the other party, Fine Gael, or whatever they're called. But it's all changing now, anyways, because I think Sinn Féin are polling near the top for Ireland. So if that's the case, it might be Fine Gael, the wherever the right wing, the Conservative one, that your version of Conservatives or Ireland's version of Conservatives struggling here a lot, especially given the housing crisis in Ireland. The housing crisis is really bad. Any more questions from the group before I call it at 6:50? I'll try and call it at 6:50. Any more questions from the gang before I eat and try and make sense of this world? But yeah, Morden's going to be quite interesting. I think she did a lot better in the leadership election than people thought. There was a thing, Resignation Watch, but that's gone now because Truss is gone. It was Kemi Badadouch and someone else were on Resignation Watch, so people thought she was going to resign. We've gone through so many different leaders in such a short space of time in this country. It's madness. No questions for your boy, huh? Sad times indeed. Did she wish your scrummy mummy? Lol. What a comment. I do hope Labour get PR passed. If it's not in the next election cycle, then the one after. Because at the end of the day, it's very rare for a political party in the UK, I think, to have more than a decade in power. That seems to be the meta at the moment. You get about 13 years. You get about just over 10 years, 10 to 15. I think the Tories would split into the ERG, the compassionate Tories, the kind of centre-right kind of Cameron-era Tories, and probably a libertarian wing. I reckon they'll break into three. And I can see Labour break into, the Social Democrats and the Socialists, so kind of the Corbyn wing and the Rachel Reeves wing. I can see that happening, definitely, yeah. I don't think Labour will break into three parties. It would be quite interesting if they did, but kind of the left-wing element and the centre-left element, they'll break up into those two. I also would be quite interesting to see what Labour do next, because it's clear the membership want PR, but the leadership don't, especially now, given that they're going to get a very easy victory. ERG are libertarians, suppose so, but they are like a Christian group. So you could also get, the pro EU Conservatives. Maybe they'll break into a separate group. I don't know. Tories for EU. Maybe we'll see some of that. It's going to be interesting. I mean, the State of the Union. I do appreciate how America do, like, they do a better version, I think, that of the Queen's speech, which is the State of the Union speech, where the president kind of sets out their agenda every year. I think I would like to see kind of a State of the Union, but it'll be kind of talking about the specific issues each part of the Union has. That'd be quite interesting, like addressing some of the issues in, say, Scotland or Wales in Northern Ireland. That'd be quite cool. Can't remember if there's anything else I wanted to talk to you guys about, but this is some genuinely just big news, isn't it? And it just didn't end. It was meant to end. It just didn't end. That's the crazy thing. You know, that whole day, it lasted from I think probably about 9 a.m. till 1:30 a.m. You know, over a whole entire day given to that news cycle, because she desperately wanted to block this Labour motion into banning fracking. Why she wanted to bring it back, I don't know. Yeah, the EU want to see the UK stable. I mean, at the end of the day, there are EU institutions and EU traders that have British bonds who they may have lost a lot of money from this. Last thing they want to do is have to bail out people because of the fact that the UK bonds have tanked, given that the UK is seen as a relatively safe bet when it comes to currency and bonds. We have seen the pound fluctuate a decent amount since 2016, but over the last couple of months, it's just been going haywire. I think that they're trying to. Some of the Labour MPs are trying to get an investigation into potential insider trading between Kwasi Kwarteng and the trader he's fairly close with. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to get sued, but that guy, you know who he is, Crispy. Yeah, honestly, fracking in the UK, it's just a cash grab. That's all it is. It's a cash grab. Like it'll be sold at the international price. All it will do is just increase the gas supply in the world by a small amount. That's about it. And you know, the local communities won't be compensated properly, given the damage like fracking can do. If you look at America, you can see the damage fracking can do to a country. It's just not. You don't want it here. And at least in America, they have a lot more empty space. In the UK, it's a lot of the places are built up or farmland or nature, you know, nature reserves and things like that. You know, in America, you have like vast open plains of nothing because that country is way too big. But I just, you know, on that point that Trope made, you know, maybe he is right. He is right about the fact that the Tory party is ungovernable, but they have been ungovernable probably since 2015. I'll be honest. The only time that, you know, David Cameron kept the party together was during the coalition government, where the ERG weren't that prominent. And then in 2015, they started winning more. They started winning more seats. ERG members became more prominent. You had an influx, I think, of UKIP members who wanted a kind of radical, you know, really super hard Brexit person who chose. In the end, they had to pick Theresa May because Andrea Leadsom dropped out. Michael Gove shivved Boris Johnson. So that happened. And then they chose Boris Johnson over Jeremy Hunt, who was the much safer bet, who would not have caused this mess that Johnson caused. Also, Jeremy Hunt is not going to run this time around as well, which I found quite interesting. I think losing to Johnson kind of broke him in 2019. So yeah, Jeremy Hunt's not going to run. So at least we know that for sure. But I don't know who else. I don't know who else is going to run. It's just we are through the looking glass here at this point. I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens from here. May actually did a good job. I don't think she did a good job, I'll be honest. But she did probably better than the other ones. Let's be clear. I think she did better than Johnson. She did definitely did better than Liz Truss. Her main problem was she gambled on an election she didn't have to gamble on. That was if she didn't do that, she would have been alright. But she put herself in a really bad position. A minority government. But I genuinely don't get how you botch an 80-seat majority. You have everything you need to pass your agenda pretty much. But, you know, she decided to push for stupid policies like lifting the ban on fracking. Why would you even do that? I don't get it. Why is that the hill you're willing to die on. I don't understand. It just didn't make sense. I know I think she took donations from certain kind of people who have vested interest in kind of the fossil fuel industry, but the fracking thing makes no sense, and that's essentially, it's not the straw that broke the camel's back, is the hill she decided to die on. She tried to force Tory MPs to break a manifesto pledge, which would have made them deeply unpopular. Deeply unpopular. This is the party we saw that had Marcus Rashford and other people shame them into giving free school meals. This is that party, and she tried to force them into a vote which it just wasn't going to go anywhere. You had to say, oh, this was a vote of confidence in the government, and then it wasn't a vote of no confidence in the government, and now it is a vote of no confidence in the government. So those Tory MPs that voted against the government, who probably didn't know the stakes of it, that didn't realise it was a vote of no confidence against the government, they're going to have the whips withdrawn from them, and it's going to be like, why? Truss the Brexit martyr. Johnson at least knew how to do. Yeah, Johnson knew how to play the game, and he played the game well. Liz Truss has no idea what she's doing. She's so far out of her depth. There's a thing in Brooklyn Nine-Nine called Overmind. It's when instead of people undermining you, they instead of people trying to weaken your authority, they give you too much authority and too much power, and it ends badly. That's what's happened with Liz Truss, effectively. Like, she's been overmined. Like, people said, like, oh, we're underestimating Liz Truss, she's from a comprehensive school and all this nonsense. She's been overestimated her whole career. I genuinely... Oh, we have a bot. I genuinely think someone should look over her political career with a fine-tooth comb and actually look at what she's actually achieved, because the deals with Australia and New Zealand were a joke. An absolute joke. She failed to get a deal with America. She failed to get a deal with India. What has she actually achieved? Genuine question. What has she actually achieved in her ministerial career? I think she was an accountant before she joined politics. I wish she stuck with that, but instead she goes down in history as one of the worst prime ministers of all time. Let's be honest, she probably is the worst. I can't think of one that's worse than her. I can't think of one that's been worse. Like, ones I've read about in the history books, anyways. Like, that were as bad as her. 80-seat majority. That's like having an all-star team and then losing, self-destructing. How do you do it? I don't. The Tory party's gotten too big. We know this, but it's just frustrating because, like, you just know they should have done better. Like, in a sense of, like, how do you mess up? How do you get given everything in life and still end up a failure? I don't get it. I genuinely don't. And that's the thing with these Tory MPs, like, they didn't have to work hard for where they got to in life. Let's be honest, for the vast majority of them. And this is it. Truss failed to even remove all the EU references from the Australian trade deal. It had to be signed twice. I mean, they did that with I think it might have been Ukraine or one of the other countries, kind of non-EU countries in that area, where they copied and pasted the bits around that say that will adhere to EU law, effectively EU standards, and they had to go over it again. She's a moron. She can't even cut and paste properly. At least hit Control F, and you'd remove EU with UK. It just doesn't make sense. With Johnson, he knew how to play the game, and the problem is with Truss, he just doesn't. David Cameron, did he know how to play the game? Probably a bit. Theresa May, I think if she had better pieces, I think she would have done a lot better, but she kind of screwed herself in the end. And the fact that she has no ability to speak to the public. But neither does Liz Truss, I'll be honest with you. She has, like, whenever she speaks, she's blinking constantly, which makes it look like she's got something in her eye. Or maybe she has some condition, maybe I shouldn't mock it too much, but it's just really awkward. Whenever she speaks, it's just none of these people make sense. None of these people make sense. These are all caricatures from a book, and I just don't understand how they are the way they are, and the fact that she's botched an 80-seat majority. Why would she go for a power play? It doesn't. Her advisors, whoever her advisors are, they've actually screwed her worse than Ed Miliband's advisors did in 2015. I know I'm rambling a bit here now, but it's just like, I don't know, like, you know, in the legal world you have malpractice where you give your client bad advice, and things like that. This, genuinely, she should get her money back. She should ask for a refund for the country for these, you know, the spads that she had, the special advisors, because they're rubbish, absolutely rubbish. Like Trump, who managed somehow to bankrupt a casino. Yeah, kind of is. I mean, I just don't get it. I just, like you like I said, you've got the ball on the goal line. All you have to do is tap the ball in, and she just couldn't do it. And I don't know how that's even possible. Like, how do you mess up? How do you mess up so badly? I don't get it. I genuinely just. It's astonishing. It's genuinely astonishing. I'm gonna do a poll because we've got some people here. Not a poll, but I'm gonna do an announcement just quickly. Q&A stream. Oops. So yeah, if you guys got any questions, longer form questions, feel free to put it in the community section of the channel. There are truly evil beings in human form around. They tend to inhibit the centers of power. Yeah, I just, you know, like, for me, it's like you're playing the game on easy mode and you still died, and I don't get how. You know, there are people who have to work so much harder to get anywhere in life, right? And this lot had it easy and they still failed, and I don't get how that's possible. I don't get it. You know, how can you be born with everything that you need in life, right? You know, fair enough, she didn't go to a private school, which people make a big deal out of. She still was, you know, I think she still was middle class. You know, her parents had good jobs, things like that, and so it's not like she was like, you know, she grew up in poverty. But I don't get how she messed up so much. It's whoever's advising these people are genuinely, like, they should get a refund. I would ask for a refund at this point, because they've done such a horrible job. Whoever told her to make the ban on fracking a no confidence vote in the government and then flip flop on it once you realise you don't have the authority, like how Liz Truss didn't realise people in the Conservative Parliamentary Party do not like her is astonishing. She's not popular, and I don't get how she didn't realise that. Big, you know, Hillary Clinton and Theresa May vibes here. You know, people who are just very, very awkward, who have been reliant on the wrong advisors for a long time, and they've steered them wrong consistently. I said these advisors are so much worse than the ones that Ed Miliband had in 2015. Ed Miliband had such a rubbish team around him. You know, he's such a smart geezer as well. He is such a smart geezer, but he has such a rubbish team. You know, he's one person I wish so much I could interview on the channel. It's such a bad team, but you know, this lot here, worse advisors. And you know, these are people who pay top dollar as well. These are people that pay bank, and they just don't know what they're doing. She brought in the guy who advised Prince Andrew before he did that interview with Emily Matles. I think that guy who advises Truss now told her it was a bad idea. Yeah, Cummings was right. You know, Sage, Big Dominic, the Sage, was right. Liz Truss is the human hand grenade, but this time she was more like a human HIMARS. You know, she went and saw the target and just completely blew it up. It's just astonishing. I don't get. Like, if they want someone competent, right? It's not hard to find competent advisors. It really isn't. You know, the one thing Johnson actually did very well is he built a semi-competent team around him. and that helped him out. You know, they kept him in power for what, from 2019 to 2022, for about what, 2 years? No, 3 years. They kept him in power for just under 3 years, right? Liz Truss's advisors barely kept her in for like what, 6 weeks. It's just, she's become a meme. You know, that's the one thing in politics you don't want to become, as a meme. She's a meme. She's a joke. And the fact is, like, this is going to be her legacy. She'll always be known as the worst prime minister in the history of this country, at least the modern history of this country. How do you have an 80-seat majority and fail? I don't get it. I'm going to wrap the stream here. I'll probably do a separate video. I'll do a separate video on kind of today, depending on how I feel, because my voice is kind of going a bit, so I need to have some green tea or something. But it's not frustration anymore. It's just confusion of, how do you have everything you need? How do you have everything you need and still fail? It's bizarre, you know. But anyways, let me know what you thought in the if you watch this back. Just let me know what you thought after, you know, in the comments and stuff. Like the video if you haven't done so already, and I'll catch you hopefully in the next video. Bye bye.